So, with the conclusion of 2Baked Episode 1, we're here with the official 2Baked Power Rankings. Now, you may be wondering how these are going to work with that first season's cast being in here. We're excluding all of that just to make sure that we're as fair as possible to our source material. We want to make sure every single character is equally represented. So, even though some characters did do very well throughout their original season tenure, we just can't do anything with them for this power rankings. So, with that in mind, we're going to start off at the very bottom here with Fire Emblem. Now, this character is only in one scene. I didn't know who they were. The rest of the cast didn't know who they were. I don't know what was going on here. Huge dropped ball by Yonoshi. I think they just have to be at the bottom of these power rankings. Now, next we have Bad Piggy. Bad Piggy, what a rat of a character. They imagined they're going to stay by Bishop's side forever, instantly saw a stronger team and went to it, then tried to give up halfway through that challenge and cost their team the victory. They're pretty terrible here. Luckily, both them and Fire Emblem are on the winning Team Yeast, so they do have that opportunity to not be voted off and get higher on these power rankings, but man, was it not a good start for them. Next up, we have Z-Block. Z-Block, obviously a fan favorite from Season 1, be able to make it into Season 2 from that fan vote. But what a weak performance. All they did was get burned constantly, and I mean that quite literally, so this is going to be a pretty tough one to actually rank here. But sadly, I think they have to be here towards the bottom. First one of their team on this ranking, which doesn't bode well as their team did lose. So unfortunately, I don't expect Z-Block to make it to the next round. But if they do, I really think they could do a bit more for their team. Maybe not have as much self-loathing and more contributing to the challenge. Next up here is going to have to be Fire Emblem. Now, they seem like a cool character. They've got a cool design and all, but they just didn't really get an opportunity to do anything. I understand it's a large cast. It's hard to do much, but that was still pretty disappointing. I wanted to see more from them, so because of that, they have to be pretty low here on the list. Next, still in this bottom half, has to be DDT. So DDT really did their best, but their best just wasn't very good. All they did was sprint after the Baker. They questioned Drybone's authority when they were coming up with a plan to get them. They were blaming the other team for them not being able to win. Just not a good look for DDT here. Obviously still a strong character, but maybe a bit too one-dimensional to make it too far in this challenge. Now, gracing us into the top 10 here, we're going to go with ToeJammer. Unfortunately, still not a strong showing from that original cast. ToeJammer, while they didn't contribute a thing to the challenge, they did get ranked higher than others, including DDT, due to their prowess in actually advancing to a stronger team, even though All-Star was really trying to build the strongest team possible. ToeJammer managed to sneak in from their connections with Drybone, so that's a huge play by them. They're raised pretty high because of that, because they, as long as they can stay out of the spotlight and their team keeps winning, they have a chance to go sneakily far here. So I think a top 10 spot is deserving. Next up here is going to have to be Fire Emblem. Again, really cool character, seemed very ready for the challenge, just didn't really contribute to it. So it may be a little controversial to put them higher than ToeJammer, but ToeJammer maybe might get on a couple people's nerves because they sort of forced their way on the team. So that's why I give them the slight edge. Next here, narrowing into the top 8, we have Arsonist. So Arsonist is a pretty interesting character. They seem quite powerful. They were able to have some pretty strong conversations with their team about moral philosophy, which is a very interesting scene. However, they just didn't really contribute to the challenge and more so just attacked their own teammate in Z-Block. So while they are here in our upper half of the characters, they're still a decent way down and a lot up that they can go. Next here at number 7 is All-Star. So All-Star is an interesting character because they had to be ranked high because they're leading their team. They created an incredible team with all of that in mind. The only issue is they themselves didn't really contribute to the challenge. So while they created this team, an already undefeated team, they weren't even the ones really leading it. They weren't the ones doing a lot of these tough decisions during the challenge. So unfortunately, they are just going to have to be a bit lower for now. Number 6 right above them. This is a controversial call, I know, but it's going to have to be Fire Emblem. The reason for this is Fire Emblem managed to find what the strongest team was and get on it without making themselves too known. They managed to get on it mostly because they had a sword. All-Star thought they might be strong, but they're still staying out of it. So not only does that mean they're not going to be bickering, like it seems like All-Star and DDT might already be butting heads with characters such as Drybones and Bad Piggy. So they're staying out of that, and they haven't revealed all of their tricks yet, so they could still be very powerful. So Fire Emblem, I'm going to have to stick there. Now we're getting into the top 5. This is where the characters start to get into that potential winning category here. So at number 5, I'm going to start out with Chomper. So Chomper, you may be like, oh, what did they do this episode? It's more, what did they not do? So they contributed in the challenge, which is a huge part of these rankings, but also they got blocked by their original team they tried to team up with, still managed to find a team and be a strong pick there, and then their original team of the season 1 cast, that half of which went to Team Yeast, Team Yeast still wanted them on their team. Only reason they didn't is because of the PTSD all-star faces from Chomper, which means Chomper's already in the head of one of their top rivals. I think Chomper could have a very, very strong showing here in this season. So right now, number 5, but could definitely raise. Number 4 here has to be Bishop. Bishop is an interesting character that we got to see a lot of, to be honest. Originally with Bad Piggy running off, so now they're going to be on their own, sort of, but they contributed quite a bit to their team still, which was very, very strong for them. But not only did they contribute to their team with all the verses they're throwing at the Baker, they also were communicating a lot with their team and showed some strong emotion in that. So of the newcomers, Bishop is coming in very strong here, but not the strongest. As number 3, you have Karibo. So Karibo being top 3, you might be like, what? But Karibo did a lot this episode. So not only did it successfully introduce itself to Z-Block, who really needs some friends and allies, but Karibo also showed off their multiply ability, which shows that we're going with a lot of lore-friendly aesthetics to these characters, which means Karibo can prevent all damage and keep themselves and their team safe. The multiply almost got the Baker. You'll notice of the people chasing the Baker, they got by far the closest to actually capturing them. Karibo, I think, could be a very strong character. However, it is a bit concerning because I'm not sure how they'll go over in the fan vote, so they're going to have to start winning challenges, I believe, if they want to cement themselves as a true leader. Number 2 here, I have Wiggler. Wiggler, obviously, leading team bred as well again. So it's very strong there in that regard. Was very sweet. Runs a flower shop, so they've got a lot more to their character. They know how to run a business. They know how to run a team. And we got to see that angry form of them, which was very powerful. Even knocked down Chomper, which was huge. So Wiggler seems like the strongest here. It seems like a very popular fan character. So they're going to have to be right here at number 2. Reason they can't be number 2 is number 1 is, I'm sure every single person here guessed it, has to be Drybones. Obviously won the first season, so kind of hard not to put that one, but I told myself I'd take a step back. But one of the things that Drybones brings here to the table is they are a true leader and a true strategist. So they're hungry for those 2 bread. They only got 1 bread at the end of last season. And they just have to be number 1 because while their team was falling behind in the challenge, they came up with the strategy to win the challenge for them. So again, despite the 2 bottom of these power rankings being on Team Yeast, Drybones still led them to victory. Now they could butt heads here with All-Star because of that, but man, Drybones is here with another strong showing and showing they might be the very first repeat winner of Baked. So let me know what you all think in the comments here, because I think this is a very contentious debate and anyone could go about anywhere here because of just the nature of a first episode. I think a lot of the bottom half can be mixed around, but I think my top 5 is very solid here. So yeah, I want to thank you all for watching. Bake on.